My dear Patterns of Possibility listeners, I want to let you know that I really do appreciate you listening to this podcast. Your listenership means a lot to me. And this podcast is my sincere gift to you. And maybe you'd like to take action on reciprocating this gift. If you would, I'll mention a few things that are pretty helpful to me in the creation of this podcast. One thing that you could do is rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Make sure to give it 5 stars. And if you're listening on YouTube, please like and subscribe. It helps a lot. Also, another thing that you can do to support my efforts is to sign up at my email list at Patterns of Possibility. When you sign up, you'll receive actionable steps to making meaningful connections. We talk about everything from people pleasing to ghosting, socializing do's and don'ts, compliments, one-sided friendships, and everything in between. So if you'd like support on making more meaningful connections with your friends and family or businesses and coworkers, sign up. Another thing that you could do is follow me on social media. I'm looking at TikTok in particular because I'm there all of the time. I'm on the road to reach 10,000 followers so that I can live stream some of my workshops. It'd be really helpful, and it would help me bring these opportunities to you for free. The last thing that I can recommend that you do is if you like this podcast and you know of someone who might enjoy it, please share it with that person. Share it with a friend. It really does go a long way. With that said, once again, your listenership means a whole lot to me. Thank you so much for your support. Do you want meaningful relationships in 2024? Then become the best version of yourself at the Love Yourself First 3-day conference. This virtual event is happening February 9th, 10th, and 11th. We are going to show you powerful self-love techniques to set boundaries, leave toxic relationships, make new friends, and much, much more. This year, start making meaningful relationships that will last a lifetime. Love yourself first. Go to Patterns of Possibility /events to get your tickets now. Hey, what's going on? My name is Coach Lee Hopkins. My pronouns are he, him, his, and you're listening to the Patterns of Possibility podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to helping you replace harmful patterns with new possibilities. In each episode, we'll explore topics that inspire you to be yourself, live your truth, and make lasting connections. In this episode, we're going to talk about toxic relationships. All right. So you might think that you know a thing or two about toxic relationships from your own experiences, and you'll never, ever, ever, ever go back. Of course. We said that. I've said that many times. I'm like, oh, I just know what toxic relationships are, and I know that I can avoid them at all costs, and I know that I'm never going to build up a relationship like that with anybody again, and I find myself in a relationship with people who do the exact same things that I do not want them to do. How does this happen? How does it happen? I mean, how? I've been so diligent and so intense on not making those relationships, but it just happens. I think the reason why it has happened based on my own discovery and journey is that we don't really know what toxicity is. We don't know what it looks like until we're knee deep in it. Let's start identifying it before it gets to that point. Are you ready? Let's go. I love being in toxic relationships, said no one ever. Nobody's ever said that. So then why do we find ourselves stuck in those kind of relationships, and why do we stay once we discover that they're toxic? Well, I can only talk from my own experiences and my own observations. And what I've noticed is that, well, a lot of people don't know what toxic is. We need that level set definition before we can say, I'm in this toxic relationships, or I know exactly what I want to avoid. So without knowing those things, without knowing what toxic is to us, we find ourselves just frolicking in it, attracted to it because it's familiar. It's what we have been doing many, many years before and will continue to do just because it feels familiar. We lean towards, as humans, this is a human trait, we lean towards those things that are comfortable, that are familiar, and that is, even if it doesn't feel great, even if it leaves us with feelings that are sad, that are frustrated, angry, disappointment, we lean towards those because we're used to feeling that way. And I'll tell you a quick story about how this is a romantic relationship that I'd like to share with you, but it applies because of the dynamics, okay? So don't be like, oh, Lee's talking about romantic. I tend to do that from time to time, just to talk about the dynamics of relationships, any kind of relationship. So anyway, I spent some time by myself as a single person, getting to know more about me, learning more about who I am and what's important and interesting to me and so forth. And then I'd figured that I had spent a few years single. Now it's time to get out there into the dating pool. It's time to learn more about, what I want through experience. And one of the things that I discovered that happened quite often in my previous relationships is how we would communicate with each other over disagreements. And it was always nasty. It was always mean. It was always full of insults and anger and frustration, raising our voices and yelling at each other. I didn't want that. So I associated immediately that's toxicity. That's a toxic relationship. I never want to be in anything like that. I don't want it. And so I was able to communicate this to the person that I started to date. I was like, look, the last relationships that I've been in, we raised our voices, we yelled at each other. When we have a conflict, I'd like to have a conversation. When we have a conflict, I'd like to have a conversation. And wouldn't you know, this mofo heard me. They heard me when I said that. And so about a month in, we had a conflict. They came over to my place so we could have a discussion about it. And they were like, sit down, let's have a discussion. I was like, wow, this is wild. This is wild. This is not what I'm used to. It's very, very uncomfortable. But it was exactly what I said that I wanted. And so they started talking about their point of view. And I tell you, I was so uncomfortable. I had a little love seat with just like two little seats, right? They sat on one side and I moved myself all the way to the other side of the love seat, crossed my arms and my legs, and just positioned myself away from this person because I was so uncomfortable about what we were talking about. I was so uncomfortable with it. And they proceeded to say their point of view, and I was just like, okay, and I felt just like I needed to get out of there. I needed to run. Like I was prepared to be rejected or something. But keep in mind that this is exactly what I wanted. I wanted a conflict I wanted a conflict where we had a conversation instead of yelling at each other, instead of fighting with each other. And here it was happening, but it was so uncomfortable that I wanted to leave my own apartment. That is why we get stuck in toxic relationships, because it feels uncomfortable to move out of that kind of dynamic. Even though we know we want it, when we get it, it feels so weird. We're not used to it. And if we're not consciously focused on the fact that we're not used to it and we have to push past that uncomfortable bit that it is, we're going to find ourselves attracted to the same kind of people who are going to cause the same kind of harm, and we're going to be in the same kind of toxic relationship. That's where you stay. That's where we be. That's where you are, because although you want something different, it feels uncomfortable to do anything else. It's unpredictable to be somewhere else with somebody else doing something else. We know what the toxic relationship is going to be like. We know that we're going to raise our voices. We know that we're going to start yelling at each other. We know that we're going to try and change each other. We know that's what's going to happen. And although it's exhausting, it's familiar. So when we talk about toxic relationships, we really have to define what toxic is. And for me, my definition of toxic really means that you're with someone who you want to change. There's some attributes about this person, core attributes about your friend, your family, in which you want to change them. You want them to be different, whether you mean it from a good-hearted, natured place, a good-natured place where you're just like, yeah, I know that you can do so much better. I'm just going to encourage you and push you. I'm going to yell at you sometimes. I'm going to shame you. I'm going to make you be the person that I know you can be. That's toxic. You're going around changing somebody. That causes us a lot of pain, because there you go, trying to change somebody who doesn't want to be changed, who feels inadequate, who feels dissatisfied because they're not meeting your needs. And there you are with a person who is inadequate, who is dissatisfying because they don't meet your needs. But you don't let them go. You got to let those people go. Or else you're going to be in this kind of relationship where people just do things that are dissatisfying to you, and you try to teach them when in the back of your mind, you'd rather not teach them. You'd rather find somebody who already knows what you want to teach them. But here's the thing. The thing that stops us from actually going to find those people who can meet our needs is this fear that they will reject us. It's a fear that they might be a little better than us and we might not be the ones who are adequate enough. This is why we stay in these toxic relationships. This is why we find people who are quote unquote less than us, that we have to fix, that we have to lift up, that we have to change, because we show value to those people. And if we show value, we can be responsible. We can say that we're responsible for their success, for them changing, for them being a better person. And we can have value in our life. We can say that we are a valuable person because look what I did for you, friend. Look what I did for you, partner. Look what I did for you, family member. I sacrificed, I gave, I did all these things to make your life better. Look at how valuable I am. Praise me. Praise me. I'm important. But if you know that you're important without doing those things, and you're worthy of being with someone who can already do them, you're going to be in a much healthier relationship. It's definitely a mindset piece. You find yourself in toxic relationships with people that you want to heal, you want to help, because you don't have your own self-worth. You don't know that you're valuable as you are, and you don't have to try and fix people for you to be loved. You don't. In fact, it is all to your detriment. So if you find yourself in a toxic relationship, here's what I want you to do. I want you to work on shifting this narrative to acknowledge that your well-being is desirable and toxicity is not desirable. It's going to be a mental switch that flips open the doors of self-improvement. Because breaking free of toxic relationships is not about blame. It's not about guilt. You're not a bad person. It's just comfortable doing the things that you've always done before. But what we want to do is reclaim your power and prioritize your well-being. You deserve to be with people who can meet your needs. You're good enough to be with people who can meet your needs. And believe that there are people out there who want to do it. They want to. Let's go find them. I'll be right back with the Answer Reddit question. Are you tired of being around people who just don't get you? Have you been putting yourself out there but not able to find anybody that matches your vibe? You're not alone. Making friends, especially as an adult, is hard. My name's Coach Lee. I'm a social connections coach, and I want to help you find your tribe. I have a 3-step coaching program for groups and individuals that's designed to help you get to the right place, to meet the right people, to have the right kind of conversations that leave you feeling fulfilled, appreciated, and understood. After going through the Find Your Tribe coaching program, you'll discover who it is that you really want to be connected to, how to find those people, and what you need to talk about so that your relationship moves from an acquaintanceship to a close friendship. And with this program, you won't be on this journey alone. You'll have access to a private community in which there are others who are just as intentional about making the kind of connections you are. You'll also have access to live events like weekly Q&As, speed friending, and much more. You'll be able to practice your skills in a safe environment and feel confident to connect authentically when you get out into the real world. If you're ready to get started on making meaningful connections and lasting relationships, then apply to the coaching program by using the link in the show notes. All right, now it's time for the Reddit friendship advice question. If you have a friendship advice question that you think I should answer, tag me in it on Reddit. My handle is Brilliant and Resilient. That's Brilliant, the letter N, Resilient. Does my friend sound toxic? I cut her off a few years ago for being toxic, but she came back into my life, and I feel things are getting toxic again. They go on to say, my friend is 26 and I'm 27. We've had an on and off relationship. She is the only friend I've ever had an on and off relationship with. I moved away from our hometown, and then I recently moved back. I'm pregnant, and the first thing she says when she sees me is, "Damn, you're fat." It upset me, so I told her to fuck off. I eventually let it go as we kept talking. I told her about the good news and about me being misdiagnosed with a mental disorder I thought that I had for years. But I was reevaluated and it came back negative, and she asked me, well, okay, then what do you have? I thought to myself, who even asked that? Especially when she is aware of the discrimination and harassment that I faced because of that misdiagnosis. She's invited to my baby shower, but I don't know if I want her to come, and I don't know how to address it to her. Not to mention, she's talking back with her ex who is in a relationship that she is aware of. That just rubs me the wrong way. You know, I'm not down for cheating, and I don't know if me cutting her off again is the right thing, if I'm too harsh or whatnot. What are your thoughts? Okay. To answer your question, does your friend sound toxic? Yes, absolutely. So listen, we're not trying to judge our friends here. We're not trying to judge these people that we voluntarily make space for and bring into our life. We don't bring them in so that we can shit on them. That's not what we want to do here, but it seems like you brought them in hoping that they're going to be somebody different, and they're showing you that they're exactly who you are when you left them in your hometown all those years ago. They're exactly the same kind of person doing these hurtful things to you. I'd like to point out also that you are the same kind of person. And the reason why I'm pointing this reflection back at you and reflecting it back at you, looking at your specific behaviors, is because you are the one who is empowered. You have an opportunity to decide whether or not you want this person in your life. And there are things that you have listed here that are really offensive and frustrating to you, and you're unsure whether or not that you need to take care of them and their feelings and just cut them off, or you need to look after yourself and do what's right and what feels good to you, or what would be satisfying to you. It's comfortable, as I said, to be in these toxic relationships. It's comfortable to be asking people on the internet these questions because you're not sure of it yourself. You're not sure of what you want. You don't want to be hurtful and mean to her, but wow, she said that you were fat. She didn't respond with curiosity and excitement when you talked about you being harassed and finally getting that diagnosis changed. And she's doing things like cheating or being complicit in, the downfall or disturbance of a relationship. She's doing a lot of mess, stuff that you don't particularly like, things specifically that you would like to change about her. That's the key, is noticing those things that you want to change about her. And so you have a couple of options here. You can hang out in this relationship. You can have this relationship and be with this person and just ignore those things that are frustrating to you. Ignore your feelings about it. Just be like, I'm a friend. Let's be friends. That's cool. No big deal. You can overlook the fact that she said that you were fat and it frustrated you or it annoyed you or it made you feel uncomfortable. You can overlook the fact that she was curious about, what diagnosis you had, because you have to have a mental disorder, instead of being satisfied or happy or supportive of the fact that you had been misdiagnosed. Or you can overlook the fact that she's cheating with somebody else. You can overlook all those things and say you're still my friend and not bring those things up and not let it bother you. That is an option. Do some meditation, kumbayas, breathe deeply, and not let those things bother you. That's an option if you want to keep this person in your life. Another option is the toxic route. This is the way that is just the most gruesome and grimy and disgusting, is that you can tell them about how you don't like the things that they're doing and they need to change. You can constantly criticize or, judge them and tell them how they need to be different, they need to be better, they have low morals. You can work any way you want. You can be upfront about it, or you can be sly and sneaky about it. You can say comments here and there, but the goal is to tell them that they are not good enough to be your kind of friend, or you don't like the actions and behaviors that they do, but still keep them around. That's another option. That's the most toxic relationships that we have. We have those kind of relationships. Come over here, but I don't like you. Come hang out with me, but change everything about who you are. You can present that. That's an option. Everything you do is correct. I'm just letting you know. We're all going to learn something. The other option, the third option that this is the one that I'd recommend, is to let them know about how you were frustrated with what they were doing and then let go. And the reason why you want to let them know is so that they're not confused about why they're being let go. No one likes to really be ghosted. So you want to share with them, hey, look, you have all these vibes that aren't connecting with me. I don't want this kind of relationship. There are some things about you that I just don't feel comfortable with. And you want to tell those people. This is really very uncomfortable for us to do, isn't it? It's so uncomfortable for us to talk about what's true and real and how we feel about things to other people, and we just can't do it because we're afraid to hurt their feelings. You had said that you don't want to invite her to her baby shower because because of these things, and you don't know how to address not inviting her to your baby shower or disinviting her. You don't know how to do it. Of course, this is just one event, but what I'm talking about is saying, I don't want to kick it with you at all. I don't want to see your face because you're vile. You're doing things that I want to change that are unacceptable to me, and I don't want to hang out with you. I don't want that kind of influence in my life. We lack the ability to say the words to the people because we're not sure about how they respond. We're so focused on what they might say, what they might do, how they might respond, and their feelings that we forget about our own feelings. We betray ourselves. And that's why we're in these toxic relationships. We're like, you know what? I'd rather not sit with this uncomfortable feeling of you not liking me, but I want to change everything about you. Does that mean that they're going to like you? Are they supposed to be grateful to you? No. Nobody wants to be told that they're not good enough, that they need to change. They need to be somebody better or somebody different. So you've got these three options. You either rock with this person and forget about all the random stuff that you want to change about them. You either tell them that you don't like what they're doing and can try to change them, or you tell them that you don't like what they're doing and let them go so that they can be themselves. It's really up to you. Redditor, thank you so much for asking your question. I know that you didn't ask me to answer it, but I did, and I hope that it helps. Best of luck to you. Take care. My name is Coach Lee Hopkins, and you have been listening to the Patterns of Possibility podcast. You can find me at patternsofpossibility.com and on all social media at Patterns of Possibility. And as always, I want to encourage you to be yourself, live your truth, and there you'll make lasting friendships.